listener production.
Hi, Sacha Barbour Gatt with you. Welcome to The Briefing. We are wrapping up 2025 today, and while a lot of us might be setting goals and resolutions, I'm sure even more are thinking about what 2026 will bring when it comes to travel.
Princess walking is what I call it. You know, you walk for a day, you carry a day pack. They pack your day pack, they give you lunch, they give you snacks, they give you trail mix, and the way you go, they pick you up at the end of the day, they bring you back to some lovely accommodation, give you a glass of wine, give you a foot soak, you have an amazing chef-prepared meal, get up and do it all again in nature, and everyone loves it.
Our deep dive into the hottest destinations and travel trends for the new year is coming up after the headlines, brought to you by the Listener Newsroom. It is the last day of 2025, Wednesday, the 31st of December.
Good morning, I'm Matt Layton. A deadly weather double hit is unfolding with floods claiming a life and a cyclone smashing the west. In far north Queensland, a man in his 70s has died after his car was swallowed by floodwaters in Normanton. While in WA, tropical cyclone Hayley crossed the coast as a Category 3 system. Emergency crews are on standby as heavy rain, damaging winds and flash flooding continue. Australians are being urged to celebrate, not hide, as the country counts down to a new year under tight security. The Sydney Harbour Bridge will glow white before fireworks light up the harbour, with extra police on hand to keep crowds safe. Good news first for households as the calendar flips over. From tomorrow, the pharmaceutical benefits scheme cap falls to $25, with youth payments and childcare support also lifting. But the relief comes with a warning: electricity subsidies are on the way out in 2026. And former Aussie Test star Damien Martin is in hospital after falling seriously ill on Boxing Day. Ashton Turner did everything but get the ton, stranded on 99 not out in a huge Scorchers win in the Big Bash. At NG Stadium, the Perth Scorchers smashed the Sydney Thunder by 71 runs, Turner dragging his side to 202 and right back into finals contention.
No doubt it was satisfying to be on the right side of the ledger tonight. We've had a couple of games go down to the last over the past week or so, and we've fallen on the wrong side of the ledger on those occasions, which was frustrating.
Turner there on Fox Sports.
Thanks to the Listener Newsroom for today's headlines. Now it's time to talk travel. Were you one of the millions of Aussies who took a holiday in 2025? Travel and tourism continues to take up a big chunk of our disposable incomes, despite the cost of living crunch, with billions upon billions of dollars dropped this year on both domestic and overseas trips. And we're not expected to slow down in the new year either. So what's hot and not in travel in 2026? How can we snag a bargain on that next trip? And what are some of the lesser known holiday spots we should be considering? Quentin Long is from Australian Traveller and he joins me now. Quentin, it feels like the last couple of years, especially post-COVID, it's all been Europe. Remember, the borders opened, 2023, 2024. Everyone wanted to go to Europe. Everyone wanted to tick that off their bucket list. Can we expect that to change next year? Are we going to start seeing a shift in what the most popular destination is going to be with travellers?
No. 2026 is going to be more of the same. Europe. And in particular, it's Italy. Italy. Did you hear about Italy? Have you been to Italy? Have you not been to Italy? It's Italy.
Yeah, right.
Australians are really changing the part of that equation, though. So as Australians go to Europe, traditionally we don't really go to one country, we'll go to several. And so Greece has emerged after the pandemic as a really hot destination for Australians. Portugal has been really, really emerging as well. Spain's obviously lifted. France has kind of lost it a bit as well, which is really unusual. You know, up until 2019, it used to be Italy, France. When we did all our sort of research, was Italy, France, Italy, who was the top. And now it's just Italy by a country mile, and France is a distant second. And really, Japan has taken on that mantle as the second big destination for Australians at that sort of level. What's really changed, though, Sacha, is that we are now travelling outside peak, like July, August, no longer Australians. And so you're starting to see Australians travel far more frequently in bigger numbers from about April through to June and then September, October. A couple of reasons. It's not as hot, which is another trend. People are really avoiding peaks of summer, and it's not as crowded. And I've got to be honest, it's not as full of Americans. Because if you go to Italy in July and August, it is like being in New York. Well, not quite New York, but, middle America, because they're all there. And Australians are reacting to that. And we're deciding not to go in those times because it is quite challenging and expensive.
Yeah, well, that doesn't help either. Look, What are some spots? You mentioned Japan there as well, which has been popular in the past, but it feels like it is kind of really regaining popularity. What other places might be kind of starting to emerge as popular next year and into, 2027 and beyond?
Yeah, so tourism, whether you like it or not, is really an aviation-led business in the outbound market. If you're not flying there, you can't get there. It's much harder. So direct flights really do impact that. So things like South Korea is picking up. Obviously, K-pop, all the Korean sort of pop culture that we're getting through Netflix, and now we're flying directly into South Korea from Australia, is seeing an aviation boom, which leads to a tourism boom as well. Sri Lanka is the one that's, this is the great destination around the world that is always on the tip of really bursting out. And I think this might be the year. 2026 could possibly be the year. I think it will. And look, the other indicator of that, and it's a bit of a cheat for me to say that, which is that, Jetstar's about to start flying there. That does change the game. And so as soon as Jetstar starts flying there, you start to see Australians follow. So the other ones that I think are really interesting to watch for Australians is going to be things like Mexico. I see a lot of interest in Mexico. Outside, like a lot of Australians are starting to look Mexico City, Yucatan, that kind of area, which is the Caribbean coast, but I'm starting to see people being more interested in the Pacific coast of Mexico as well. So that's all the three sort of big destinations that we're observing. I'm cheering for South America. I think Peru has a lot to offer, and Australians are starting to twig to that. Like the Amazonian part of Peru is one of the, and I hate this word, pristine, but it's true. You've got to use it. It's a cliche for a reason. And if you get to there's this really fabulous cruise on the Amazon there. If you get to do that, it's not cheap, but it is one of those absolute life-affirming, and I hate that word, bucket list. I'm not going to use it. One of those life-affirming trips that we save up for and really makes us explore the world and see it through a new light, and really is astonishing.
I want to talk about the US a little bit. Now, there has been an impact to travel to the US, and people are making a correlation between Donald Trump's second term, his crackdown and his administration's crackdown on not only immigrants, but also just tourists and travel. The call to want to make people give up their social media history, including people from Australia, that happened earlier this month. Those things are all having an impact. Are you expecting to see that proposal kind of impact how many Aussies want to travel to the US, or are we already seeing that?
We're already seeing it. I really feel for the US-based tourism operators because they are being absolutely hammered by global affairs and they have no control over that. The visitation to the US is way down, and their key markets, which are really domestic markets, Mexico and Canada, are really voting with their feet. They're also getting less traffic from Europe, and Australians are down. Now, look, we can debate why. The easy thing to say is that it is the global affair, but it's also impacted by exchange rates. So the Australian Aussie dollar has been not strong against the American dollar, so that's really also impacting it. And just a quick story, Sacha, on our social media handles for International Traveller, which is our outbound brand, we've had to turn off comments on any content we put on about the US because it's just inundated with people going, not in the next 4 years. And look, I get it. We just don't feel like that's a really productive conversation to have in that environment. I get you don't want to go. That's up to you. We do think there's validity in those destinations, and we really should be trying to reach across the pond to the Americans and say, we don't want to abandon you. That's the worst thing we can do. But it is tough.
Well, on that topic, actually, the Men's FIFA World Cup is happening in the US, Mexico and Canada next year. Are you noticing people from Australia kind of wanting to take the trip to see that?
This is actually a great case study, and one of the other big trends is all events, particularly musical concerts like we had the Taylor Swift, those sort of things will happen. So the FIFA World Cup will be a boom for the US, but outside that, it's going to be tough.
Let's bring it home. We talk all the time about international travel, but holidays in Australia are also not only popular but also important for our local economy. What are you seeing in trends around domestic tourism?
The domestic market is one of those markets that is a microcosm of the world, but also gives you some insights. We are really dominated here by aviation, and we have two major companies, so Virgin and Qantas Group. And Qantas Group is Jetstar and Qantas. And so, first of all, Qantas is really, really using its muscle in loyalty. So they just announced the Jetstar Club Plus, I think it's called, which is this pay-for program that really does lean into its loyalty so that all the people who have all those Qantas points now can actually earn status credits and all that sort of stuff flying Jetstar. That doesn't sound like much to the regular traveller, but that is a really strategic move against Virgin, because Jetstar and Virgin is where they compete really hard head-to-head. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Virgin, on the other hand, are really starting to expand their code share agreements. So they've just signed one early in December with China Southern Airlines. So spreading their network internationally would be helpful. They've also just announced they're going to go back to Darwin from June in 2026. That's really, really helpful to the top end. It's also showing that they're starting to spread their wings, for want of a better term. That's a really bad metaphor, but spread their wings and start to go further afield. So I think that competition is going to be good for domestic tourism now that, Virgin is really focused on getting itself organised. I think domestically we're also seeing Tasmania has been such a hot destination, right? Its growth is so hard to continue at that rate. So I see that it still will grow, but it won't grow as fast. It's still got the brand that every other state wishes they had, that cachet that comes with Tasmania and how it leaned into its quirkiness. The NT, I think, is going to be a real boom for that. The other thing I should quickly mention about that is the sale of Voyages Hotels, which is the Uluru Ayers Rock Resort, will be helpful to that region because it means that's now complete. They can get on with the idea of growing their visitor experiences. So that'll be good for the Red Centre. So they're the sorts of things that I hope 2026 is going to be a blessing for them.
We talk a lot about destinations, but there's also types of holidays that people take that can evolve and change and shift. What sort of things are we seeing people wanting to take up in 2026 when it comes to the type of holiday they're taking? Yeah,
so I divide these into continuing trends. We've had them and they're not going to stop, and then emerging trends. So multi-gen travel, which is, 3 generations, 4, 5 generations. We're now getting to 5 and 6 generations alive at the same time who are traveling together, which is crazy. And the wealth that we've created through the superannuation evolution, that amount of money is now actually seeing why those multi-gen travels. That continues. Astrotourism, we're seeing a lot of people stargazing, but meteor showers, eclipses, all that aurora, all that sort of stuff continues to go. Active adventure. So active adventure I put into things like cycling holidays, walking holidays, and walking holidays are killing it in Australia, and with a particular segment, Sacha, which is solo female travel. Princess walking is what I call it. You walk for a day, you carry a day pack. They pack your day pack, they give you lunch, they give you snacks, they give you trail mix, and the way you go, they pick you up at the end of the day, they bring you back to some lovely accommodation, give you a glass of wine, give you a foot soak, you have an amazing chef-prepared meal, get up and do it all again in nature, and everyone loves it. It's really, really popular with solo females or groups of women travelling together. So that's a continuing adventure, and that in Australia domestically is really big. Coolcations, Australians are increasingly saying summer's too hot, I'm going to go somewhere cooler. Wellness travel is starting to evolve. I'm a bit of a curmudgeon on this one because wellness, a holiday is wellness, right? So where does this start and end? But I will say the trend internationally is actually longevity. People are really starting to lean into wellness as longevity, and so you're starting to see industry respond with these longevity programs and starting to do some really scientific, maybe, I hope, approved, we'll see, stuff that's going there. So we're seeing all that. I've mentioned events tourism as well. We're also starting to see AI lean into the planning process of trip planning and things like that. So there's some of the trends that we're seeing.
Look, we can't have a conversation about travel without asking you the best ways to snag a bargain. I know you don't love this conversation, but people want to know. People want to know any hacks that you can cough up. I mean, I know they kind of stay similar. Any new ones that we can maybe try out? I guess AI would be one for a lot of people.
Yeah, AI is starting to develop a way that you can actually help you. Don't trust it 100%. Always. It's still very difficult. Like, we launched our own AI tool on Australian Traveller called Ask AT. And it's great because what it does is it only uses our content, 20 years of Australian Traveller content to answer questions. And it is like a teenager. You have to keep telling it every day, stop doing that, start doing that again, stop doing that, start. And so AI is starting to evolve that way. The hack, I've said this a million times, sorry, Sacha, and I'll say it again, marry well. Marry a pilot. That's the number one hack. Join all the programs, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Look, and the other thing that is sort of counterintuitive, there's two ways, which is be really planned. So book early. 6 months out is probably the sweet spot internationally, and at least 3 months for domestic. And the second one is be flexible. So if you aren't going to be organised, be flexible so you can snag late-minute bargains and stuff like that. The truth of the matter, and if you ask industry experts on what they call yield management, the algorithms are getting better and better and better, and it's harder and harder and harder to really snag a deal.
Oh, that's disappointing.
I know, I'm sorry, but it does mean that the prices are levelling out. Italy is ridiculously expensive, and particularly in July and August, and you can thank the Americans for that because they're just going and travelling and travelling. So sorry, Sacha, I wish I had better news.
That's okay. We'll forgive you this
I'm such a Grinch when it comes to these things. But
Quentin Long, thanks so much for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Great to see you, and Happy New Year to everyone out there. I hope they have a great 2026 and full of great travels.
That was Australian Travellers Quentin Long speaking with me there. Thanks so much for listening to the final episode of The Briefing for the year. That is it for now. Just a quick thank you for being with us in 2025. A big thank you to the team for working so hard. We will be back in the new year tomorrow doing it all again. See you next year. Have a good one.